my day job, I'm a criminal defence barrister. I was getting a little bit upset with the way things were panning out under the Newman government in terms of the Crime and Misconduct Commission and interference with the judiciary and changes to legislation taking away rights to protest, children's rights in court, etc., etc. So I thought, it's time to do something. So I put my hand up for pre-selection, and here I am. I was endorsed last month by the Labor Party to run in the seat of Redlands. At this stage, we don't know who our opposition is going to be. Obviously, the current incumbent is Peter Dowling, but he hasn't at this point in the game been re-endorsed. He seems to be following me everywhere I go, so I think hopefully he's going to be re-endorsed. We'll wait and see. I've only been in the game, as I say, since August, and already I'm discovering that transport has been identified, I think, quite soundly as a key issue in our particular electorate. I've lived in the electorate since 2000. Before that I was in central Queensland, and before that in Cairns, so I know what small communities with transport issues are like in terms of that agenda. Although I've lived in the electorate, I've actually been based... The electorate has, as you would know, Redlands City Council and also Logan City Council. I'm right at the Logan City Council end of it. I'm on the boundary just about with Redlands down behind the Mount Cotton Driver Training Centre. So I also know how environmental issues are fairly significant to people in our electorate, because in my backyard we've got the Caraman Quarry situation, the Mount Cotton Quarry, and issues surrounding that in terms of disintegration of significant ecological environment for koalas and various other birds and animals. I actually wrote to the Southern Moreton Bay Island Forum when I was thinking of going to the pre-selection race for the Labor Party to say that I'd like to come along and meet with you, because I have a background, before I went into law, in organisational change and development. So I believe that forums such as this are very important for bringing forward the views of the community in a nice, succinct manner. So I'm looking forward to, one, being elected, and two, working with you as we try and improve the Redlands electorate and make it a good community for all of us to live in, and hopefully have the governments of our day listen a bit more to some of the things that we would like to have happen, or at least give us the opportunity to be heard in the consultation process. I don't know how many of you have been involved in the Redlands City Council consultation process over the last little while. The one that they had 60 people that were allowed to go to the various meetings. I'm not sure that's necessarily what I would call true consultation, but at least it's a token effort. I believe it should be more than a token effort for governments and their communities. And so that's my goal. So I wanted to come here and listen to you, good people. I will be getting around to all the islands and walking around and knocking on doors and introducing myself in person to people as well. But that might take some time to get through. It's mooted that the election will be in March of next year. I think in your own minutes it reckoned it might be the weekend of the 22nd of March 2015. I haven't had that confirmed specifically in that detail at this point in time, but it was suggested to me that it might even be as early as February. I think it might depend on how G20 pans out for them all in terms of whether they go early or late. If I am elected, or should I say when I am elected, I really would like to work closely with you and understand exactly what the key issues are and how we can progress things forward together. I believe in working towards consensus more than anything else, and that comes, as I say, from years in organisation development and change with public sector organisations, so I know what public sector is like to deal with as well. And I can sincerely empathise with those who have tried to work with public sector organisations. They're not always the easiest of things. That's all really I wanted to say at this point in time about me, unless you have any specific questions you want to direct to me. That's me. I'll be knocking around for a little while, hopefully. I'm going to have to give up my practice in law, unfortunately, because I won't be able to do two things at once. Can't multitask to that extent. But the criminal defence arena also gives you a very good handle on dealing with people in the community as well. So hopefully there are skills that will be useful to us as a community to move us forward. Be delighted to take any questions you might have of me, if any. Yes.
You mentioned transport.
Yes.
Can you enlighten us what your view is on bridging the southern Moreton Bay Islands?
Oh, the issue of the bridge seems to be a hot one. It's been a hot one since 1970s. I don't yet have a view, but I knew it was going to be a hot issue, so I did in fact write to the responsible shadow minister to see if I could get a view back on the party line. I am still awaiting that response, regrettably, so I can't tell you what the Labour Party platform is on that. All I can say is that historically it has not been a positive view. You would know that there have been multiple petitions tabled. The most recent one was very recently tabled by the member for Capalaba. It had 882 signatures on it. We're still allowed, under the current rules and regulations, to sign a petition, even though we might not live next door to where the event is happening, unlike coal seam gas protesters. That petition was not met with a positive response by the current government. In fact, I have the letter here that was delivered by the Honourable Scott Emerson on the 3rd of September and tabled in Parliament. And he indicates that a bridge to North Stradbroke Island via Russell Island is not a priority for the Department of Transport and Main Roads at this time. However, Transport and Main Roads do not, in principle, oppose a privately funded bridge. For a privately funded bridge to be approved, the project would have to adhere to the normal planning, impact assessment and consultation processes and seek development approval through the DSDIP, including a referral to Projects Queensland, which is responsible for the government's public-private partnerships policy. That's government speak for no. Yeah? They're not going to go down that path at this stage.
That's probably a good thing.
It seems from what I was reading from your last meeting's minutes that there is a perception that there is division within the community.
A very big one, yes.
Yes, and probably division across the islands within the communities as well in terms of what's there.
You mentioned the bridge to Stradbroke Island.
That's what it was suggested here, a bridge via.
I don't think that bridge is viable at all,
Yeah.
and that is not necessary. What we need is some link to the mainland from Russell Island to the mainland. Because I don't know whether you know the circumstances.
If you, I don't really think this is the place to be bringing it up, because one of the things about putting a bridge onto the island is you're no longer an island.
No, this is nonsense. Yeah, okay.
You see the intensity of this.
I do, and I can fully appreciate the intensity of the argument. Yes.
There's as many opinions as there are people. Unfortunately, no one's ever taken the trouble to actually do a census to find out what the opinion is.
And that's what I think would be a first port of call, and I saw some...
We tried to do that. We thought the forum would probably facilitate that.
I think that's a very sensible strategy.
And the other thing is to take the emotion out of it and look at it realistically from the point of view of a number of issues, development costs.
Cost-benefit analysis.
You know, environment, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But at the moment, it just gets this way. And these two gentlemen are exactly the sort of thing that occurs whenever the subject comes up.
Well, Clem was cut off before he got to finish speaking, actually.
Yeah, but I know that what I'm getting at is that the discussion could go on for another hour and a half or 2 hours.
And unfortunately, at this point in time, I'm not in a position to be able to actually progress that discussion too far. But I do note the sentiment that is there, and I have investigated the history of the sentiment too. And I think the idea of the SMBI Forum actually taking a key role in trying to de-emote the issue and actually get some solid facts to move forward is the best starting place.
That's exactly right. I
So
totally agree with you.
I do believe, though, that if there's a sizable population on these islands, and we very much feel neglected in many ways, I think it would certainly worth your while as a candidate to actually try and get at least an opinion on the thing before the election came up.
Tap into the feelings and see if I can see what's happening in the party office as well. Hello.
You're probably
How are you?
We haven't been on a meeting, we haven't got a report to have, so.
You're probably aware that there was a survey done in the Redland City Bulletin. And as it stands, as of today, there are 71.5% for the bridge and 27.5% against the bridge, and about 1.5% are undecided. So that gives you an idea what it's like. But what we need would be a proper survey from all stakeholders, landowners on all islands, what their opinion is.
And of course that costs money and time and is something that would need to be prioritised if it was to go ahead.
It could easily be done if council would agree, and we have been talking with Mark about it. If council would agree to include a letter of survey in the rates notices, that would address every landowner, and we would get a proper survey with no extra cost.
But that's another issue too.
Yeah, I know.
Because that goes out to every landowner, and there's a body of opinion amongst the landowners that don't necessarily live on the island.
That's right.
Having the bridge is going to increase the property value. It's again something else that really needs to be investigated, because it may in fact not be the case at all.
And you are aware that Peter Darling is pro-bridge?
I am. I read
And
read
what
his
he has done, and I appreciate that very much, Peter Darling has done a series of 11 videos, and I would encourage everybody, right, on all islands to watch these videos, what his view is on the bridge issue, right?
Are these on YouTube?
No, they are on Facebook. We are trying to get it on YouTube somehow, but that might take some time.
Could I just add one more thing to that, for your background?
Yep.
And that is that when the previous council, did a lot of investigation and things about the island for the ILTP, the review of the ILTP, that's Integrated Local Transport Plan, catchy title. And one of the things they did was to commission, is it GHD? Yeah. GHD to look at alternate transport. We could probably get you that report. We have a copy of it.
It is on the Simbi Forum website.
It's on.
It is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That there are those who disagree with the findings. There are those who believe that the brief to GHD was to find that it's too high. But at least they looked at the bridges, at the potential of bridges, and there's really only the potential of bridging from Russell, because any other bridge would just be too big, from Macleay or someplace. But also looked at barges, a barge from the top of Macleay to Victoria Point, a barge from the bottom of Russell over to Little Rocky Point, and what goes with that. So those were other options to look at.
Okay.
Historically, people don't get a bridge before there's a demand, an existing demand with a barge. But that doesn't seem to interest Mr. Dowling, because he doesn't want to get a bridge.
I think he's under this impression 90% of Russell Islanders want a bridge, 90% of 3,000 is 2,700 boats. And I think that's what it's all about, as far as I'm concerned.
He thinks that.
The Urbis report, which was sponsored by council to encourage the state government to actually put money into these islands before the last state election, actually costed a bridge scenario and worked out whether the investment was worthwhile. And to the best of my recollection, the Urbis report said that the bridge would not be worthwhile. It would not significantly impact on property values, etc., etc. But that report again is available, I think, on the council website. But it does make that comparison.
We don't have it on our website or the Urbis report. We can use your copy of it.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah, the Urbis report's quite long. It also says that if the council continues to spend whatever it was per annum on these islands, which was about 10 million at the time, I think, then the for a start, we'll probably send most of the business on this island broke, because people would simply go straight to mainland. And the other issue is with the additional costs involved with operating bar service and ferry services to support an island with half the size of what it is now with the remaining three, would put the cost up again. So they're the sort of issues that I think has to be looked at logically, and people need to put their arguments forward in a well-researched, unemotional manner, and then as a community, and I say as a community because the people who live here, who rent places, who don't own, have as much right to determine what happens about our community as what the landowners do who don't own it. Anybody got any other questions I'd like to ask you non-bridge related?
The scenario is you manage to get that 22%.
Yeah.
You get in, but Labor doesn't.
Yep.
How do you see yourself then influencing things on our behalf?
The scenario you'll portray is, I think, quite a likely outcome on my take of things. My view then is that I am the advocate for the area and working as a lobbyist on various entities within the greater parliamentary bureaucracy, as well as the ministers and the politicians themselves. So that's where I think I'd be using some of my organisational change skills to the fore in terms of persuasion and working towards trying to get some sort of compromise position that might move us forward, or arguing strongly and vehemently against whatever they want to be doing and trying to get some way through the mire that is a large or a smaller but larger than we are now opposition party to the government's policies. In an ideal world, I might like to think that we would actually win power back, but I think that's not going to happen this time round. So I could be wrong. We have to wait and see on that one. Yeah.
Okay. I wish you luck.
Yeah.
20% is a big hill.
It is, but if I look at, if I take the last election as an aberrant one on the its time basis, then the three prior elections, the base rate is actually 10% in Labor's favour. So maybe we can do it, maybe we can't. Time will tell. There's only one poll that counts, as they all say. Thank you very much, Trevor, I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing with me your thoughts. I do appreciate you taking the time to do that. And if I can stay and listen, I'd like to do that.
As I said,